How's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here with another video. So, of course, it's time for another Detroit Lions NFL draft preview. So, in the last draft preview, we took a look at the top day 3 tight end prospects for the 2022 NFL draft. And in this part, we're going to wrap up the offensive portion of the draft previews and hand out the final offensive draft preview for the 2022 NFL draft by taking a look at the top day 3 offensive lineman prospects for rounds 4 through 7 of the 2022 NFL draft. So for this preview, we're going to take a look at the top offensive tackle, guard, and center prospects, every position on the offensive line, to see which prospects the Lions should target for rounds 4 through 7 of the 2022 draft. The only position I would say they should look at maybe targeting is maybe guard, and that's about it. But anyway, enough talk. Let's jump right into it. Let's go. So, starting off with offensive tackles, the first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Michigan, standing 6'6", weighing 327 pounds, we got Andrew Stuber. So for Andrew's strengths, he has accurate and active hands, always makes small adjustments as a pass blocker. He's a linebacker's worst enemy in the run game, physically imposing player with good power, great eye, and overall awareness. He could fit as either a guard or tackle and brings coveted versatility, so he can play nearly anywhere on the offensive line and cover any blind side. So yeah, you like to see versatility. In terms of weaknesses, though, he locks up too often when he has to adjust to inside counters. He's relying on his footwork to make up some of the gaps with agility. He will lose angles and be beaten by quickness off the snap too easily. He's tripped up in short yardage situations. He slips off blocks when he has to adjust for agile and bendy defenders. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Dalton Risner of the Denver Broncos, so has a lot of upside, a lot of versatility, a couple things to clean up and to be quicker, but still, it's definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Washington State, standing 6'6", weighing 322 pounds, we got Abraham Lucas. So for Abraham's strength, he has an excellent combination of size and length, will meet the prototype for most teams at tackle. He has active feet and pass protection, won't let his lower half stall out when he mirrors. He's calm with his pass sets, won't go into panic mode after a mistake, and he's well versed in independent hand techniques. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his movements in space are a bit sluggish, doesn't move fluidly at the second level. He gives up his chest too easily, can get shocked backwards by a good long arm move. His anger doesn't consistently match his measurements, and his tendency to open his chest and try to maul defenders on the way in won't fly too well in the NFL level. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Terrence Steele of the Dallas Cowboys, so has a lot of upside, has a lot of great technique, but a couple things he's got to clean up. But still, this is definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Penn State, standing 6'6", weighing 325 pounds, we got Rasheed Walker. So for Rasheed's strengths, he's a physical striker with powerful hands. He uses his length well, seems to have a surplus at his disposal. He's quick to recognize and pick up stunts, has good awareness and overall feet for his surroundings. Sturdy player with good stand in his pants, can anchor as a pass blocker. He's a bully in the run game if he gets his hands on a small defender. He's comfortable in a brawl, has the physical traits to just out-muscle his opposition, so he's very strong. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his feet aren't as quick as his hands, and it makes lateral quick opponents a difficult matchup for him. And mental mistakes were a major problem when Penn State faced off against Michigan in 2021, so if you want to watch some tape on that, there's that. His tendency to run his feet behind his hands get him beat on inside counters, and he starts to lean into contact once he locks in as a run blocker, and it creates some balance issues. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Max Sharpening of the Houston Texans, so has a lot of upside, very strong and very physically imposing, has a couple things he's got to work on to get better at, but still, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Ohio State, standing 6'6", weighing 325 pounds, we got Trey Munford. So for Thayer's strengths, he played most of his senior season as a guard, but has plenty of experience working on the inside of the line. Has a huge frame with excellent length, is going to check every box that teams want to tackle from a size standpoint. And with him playing most of the senior year as a guard, he has a lot of versatility. He can play anywhere on the line. So yeah, that's a lot of check marks there. Stiff initial punch, it stops defenders in their tracks. He doesn't get over his feet as a pass blocker, plays with good contact balance from an established platform. He's able to bump and bruise his way through as a combo blocker. In terms of weaknesses, though, his body control and balance nosedives when he has to work laterally and gets through space. He's not an athletically gifted mover. His modest hands and foot quickness will leave him exposed against twitchy pass rushers. His movement limitations are going to be a lot more noticeable when he has to work outside, and he slips off a lot of angles in space too often. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Derwin Gray of the Tennessee Titans, so has a lot of upside, checks off a lot of boxes, it has a lot of versatility. A couple things he's got to work at, getting better and clean up, but definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Kentucky, standing 6'6", weighing 325 pounds, we got Darius Rosenthal. So for Dare, he's your prototype downfield offensive tackle, so he's very good when we get downfield. In terms of strengths, he's an impressive athlete, reaches the second level in a hurry, has excellent lateral quickness and closing speed, changes directions fairly easily. Foot quickness and lower body twitch stands out in his pass sets. He drives his legs, can consistently run linebackers out of the play, has a nice motor, works to the whistle. He's able to effectively mirror defensive ends, recovers well if he makes mistakes, and has the winning combination of body control and adjustability. In terms of his weaknesses, he's extremely fucking raw. Lacks the prototype power and game experience, doesn't let his feet do the hard work, and ends up trailing his hands into bad situations. He lacks violence to jar and reset pass rushers. He needs better leverage to use his flexibility more effectively. He can't sustain blocks in the run game at a reasonable level, and he's late to process stunts and pass-off blocks. And his accuracy and control with his hands and angles is concerning, and a lot of the aspects in his game make him a boomer-bust prospect for his projection. But in terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Prince Tega Wannago of the Kansas City Chiefs, so he has a lot of things you like for sure. Has a lot of quickness for sure, very strong, can do a lot of things. Very raw, has a lot of things he's got to clean up. Definitely boom or bust. It may take a couple years, though, for if he's going to go boom. But yeah, definitely boom or bust. I think this is someone definitely worth taking a gamble on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of UTSA, standing 6'4", weighing 295 pounds. We got Spencer Burford. In terms of Spencer's strengths, he's quick out of his stance, will catch linebackers by surprise in the run game. His feet and his hand work very well together. He's an in-sync pass blocker with smooth pass sets. Punches very quick and accurate. He consistently drives his legs, works through defenders as a run blocker, has a nasty mentality which leads to very impressive finishes. That kind of mentality is going to be something that Dan Campbell likes for sure. He's also been listed as one of the top sleeper picks in the draft, as his low weight will be an area of concern, but he gets high marks and high praise for his athleticism and his range of movement, so there's a lot of pluses there. In terms of weaknesses, though, like I just mentioned, he's going to need to add a little more weight because he's a little bit undersized. Also, he tends to duck his head and lean too much as a run blocker. He comes out of his stance way too tall and gives up leverage, so he's got to learn to stay low. And has experience as a guard, but will need to get bigger and stronger to play in the NFL. So he's going to play guard. He's going to have to learn to add some weight, though. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jamarco Jones of the Seattle Seahawks. So he has a lot of things to like for sure. A lot of things Dan Campbell would like for sure. But at his current size, he'll be limited to just tackle. But if he can add some weight, he could get some versatility, though, and become a guard. But he's going to have to add weight. So yeah, definitely someone I would consider for sure if he can add some weight. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Fordham, standing 6'6", weighing 316 pounds. We got Nick Angelic. That last name's a bit of a tongue twister. But anyway, for Nick's strengths, he's aggressive and he puts in the overtime work. He's effective at stealing his angles in the run game. He's very patient with his punch, won't overextend and initiate contact. He takes short and choppy steps. That gives a lot of control with his engagement. Plus, his lateral agility to mirror rushers around the edge. His sharp technique and footwork will allow him to stall out inside moves. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he has short arms, which measure at 32.5 inches. It will lead many teams to view him as more as a guard at the next level, so he might be limited there. He plays a tad high, could hurt him if forced to play inside. He struggles against the long arm move. He played at a relatively low level of competition, even for an FCS player standard. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Alex Bars of the Chicago Bears, so has a lot of upside, a lot of things you like for sure. A couple things to clean up, and with his short arm measurements, could he be limited to just guard at the pro level, or could he be versatile and go tackle for tackle? But yeah, definitely somebody that could work well as a guard for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of TCU, standing 6'6", weighing 327 pounds. We got Obinna Eze. So for Obinna's strength, he's a bizarro big lineman, special length and size. Ability to snatch and redirect defensive ends is very impressive. Has great upper body strength and control when he doesn't have to work laterally. He eats punches and contact in his chest without any trouble whatsoever. He's quick enough to recognize and adjust against stunt plays. His play strength is going to be catnip for coaches who think they can clean up his technique. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he constantly relies on body blocking in the run game. Makes sustaining contact difficult for him. Has very clunky footwork, poor body control, and make him relying on simply mauling people and being too big to get around. His leverage disadvantage is going to hurt him if he moves inside, and his pass sets are awkward and heavy-footed, so he may be just limited to tackle on the outside. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jared Jones-Smith of the Baltimore Ravens, so has a lot of upside for sure. You know, a couple things he's going to have to clean up, and a couple things that might just limit him to tackle, but still, definitely could be a good piece for depth for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of UCLA, standing 6'5", weighing 302 pounds. We got Alec Anderson. So for Alec's strengths, he plays with a wide base, won't narrow up on initial contact. He's patient with his punch and won't fire hands too early. Has good coordination between hands and feet. His hands are active. He works hard to replace them if he loses his control. Has adequate closing speed to reach the second level, makes contact, and his athleticism is sufficient for the NFL level. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his frame isn't filled out, and he's too bit thin for a typical tackle prospect. Too easily he's overwhelmed by length and strength. His light lower half makes it harder for him to reset his feet and anchor down. He lacks the mass that power teams will want at the guard position, and he will struggle to put defenders off balance and finish them in the run game. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired offensive tackle Cole Boozer. So yeah, has a lot of things you would like for sure. A lot of upside, a lot of things that check the boxes, but few things he's got to clean up. And with his size, though, could be limited to just only tackle. So yeah, maybe someone for like a backup role or for depth. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Virginia Tech, standing 6'8", weighing 318 pounds. We got Luke Tenuta. So for Luke's strengths, he's light on his feet. He makes quick adjustments and pass protection. Has fairly accurate hands and is active adjusting them. He drives his legs, will take down players who give away their balance. Has decent straight line speed, but not a technically messy player despite his odd proportions. In terms of his weaknesses, though, has poor length for a tackle, will be too tall to move inside the guard. He's rails thin in his lower half, will have a hard time adding weight. His leverage is a major issue. He'll get him blown up in the NFL if he can't get lower, so he's got to learn to stay low and not stand up. He's not a power generator. He will be reliant purely on effort to create push. And he did get an invite to the East-West Shrine Bowl this year, but he really didn't do much to increase the buzz around him after that, so didn't do too much to raise his stock. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jake Campos, a free agent offensive tackle. So, has a lot of things to like for sure. Has a lot of good, accurate hands and technique, but, very thin and can't really add too much weight. So, he might be just limited as maybe like a second or third string offensive tackle for like depth. But yeah, maybe someone for depth. And the final offensive tackle we're going to look at in this video before we move on to guards, we got hailing out of Illinois, standing 6'4", weighing 320 pounds. We got Darius Low. So for Darius strengths, he has good size and length for the position, and his arm length measured at 34 7/8 of an inch, which gives him some leeway with his technique. His hands are strong and accurate enough to latch on and steer defenders out of the way. Has a sturdy lower body that can, with strength and balance, that can lock in against bull rushers. He stays calm even if he loses his position as a pass blocker. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he moves more like a guard than a tackle. It doesn't have ideal lateral quickness to mirror opponents. He lacks the range to swivel around on reach blocks and consistently beat defenders in space. His power in the run game is more gradual than immediate. He's not a knockout puncher when he lands against linebackers. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to free agent offensive tackle Justin Senior. So he has a lot of upside for sure, a lot of strength, and a lot of good size and length for the tackle. But, he's going to have to learn to get a little bit faster as a tackle. Or maybe just move him to guard. Could have some versatility, maybe move him around and see where he fits. Maybe someone to keep an eye on for, like, depth on the line. So now moving on to guards. The first one we're going to look at here, hailing out of Central Michigan, standing 6'5", weighing 303 pounds, we got Luke Guedek. So for Luke's strengths, he has experience working as a tackle, could be used there in the event of an emergency, has an adequate second-level mover, has potential with hitting reach blocks and working well laterally. He won't let defenders tee off on him with counters, and he has balance and body control are very solid. His fluid and natural in transition as a combo blocker. His hand and foot quickness, it will allow him to mirror opponents if he doesn't misread movements. And his violence is surprisingly relative to his play strength. He also got an invite to the Senior Bowl and really had a strong showing because he really wasn't being viewed as a top prospect until after the Senior Bowl. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his lack of length is most likely forcing him inside too easily. He's beaten by the long arm move. His play strength will need to take steps forward as a pro. Too easily, he's knocked back on contact and can't recover once his anchor is compromised. Has limited experience, which may be the root of some of his technical lapses. His feet often fall to hands, and it leads to losing some angles. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired guard Cole Madison. So has a lot of upside, a lot of things you like for sure, especially the violence, which you like to see for sure. A couple of things he's going to have to clean up for sure and to take and move forward with. But yeah, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Tulsa, standing 6'5", weighing 330 pounds, we got Tyler Smith. So for Tyler's strengths, he's a violent run blocker, will clear lanes and put people in the ground. Upper body strength will allow him to torque opponents out of the way. He has surprising flashes of burst when he climbs to the second level. He has a schoolyard bully temperament, which is going to appeal to a lot of coaches, especially Dan Campbell. So yeah, he's definitely going to be on Campbell's radar for sure just because of that. And he punishes a lot of defenders anytime a defender fucks up and makes a mistake. His anchoring ability is excellent when he keeps defenders in front of him. He holds his ground like a cement wall against a car, and his base has some great flashes for sure. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he can get caught off guard by contact too often. He lets his chest absorb the contact and leaves himself open, so he's got to learn not to do that. His angles are an absolute mess as a pass blocker. He struggles to stay ahead of defenders. He's a clingy blocker who's going to be going to a holding penalty nightmare. So he's got to learn to not hold too much and keep the guy in front of him and not draw penalties. And not be a fucking flag magnet. His hands are often laid and trail behind his feet. He lacks recovery ability once he makes mistakes. And his inability to get depth on pass sets will doom him against faster edge rushers. He spends a lot of time on the ground due to his overextension and athletic limits. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Tyree Phillips of the Baltimore Ravens. So has a lot of upside, a lot of things and a lot of mentalities that a lot of coaches will like, but he has a lot of things he's going to have to clean up. But yeah, maybe someone that could be something in a couple years, but yeah, maybe someone to keep an eye on for the long run. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'4", weighing 340 pounds, we got Justin Schaeffer. So for Justin's strengths, he's comfortable in a brawl, has heroic size and strength to hold his own against heavyweights. He hunts down targets, looks for chances to oppose his will in the run game, has good awareness to handle stunts. His transitional quickness from block to block is very decent for a big guy. He puts his roots down against bull rushers. He won't be knocked back on contact. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his size makes it hard for him to make quick adjustments. Loses balance too often in the run game shuffle. Very heavy feet will take him out of a mix for some teams, though. His feet stall out once his hands fire, and it leads to slipping off blocks. His lower body flexibility is average at best. He tends to lean too far and get out over his feet, and he will need to improve his block sustainability in both the run and the pass game. And his NFL comparison, he's been compared to John Simpson of the Las Vegas Raiders, so he has a lot of things you like for sure in an offensive guard. A couple things, though, that might take him off the board, maybe not, depending on what you like to see in a guard. But, a couple things he's got to clean up, though. But, yeah, definitely somebody to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Oklahoma, standing 6'5", weighing 325 pounds. We got Marquis Hayes. So, in terms of his strengths, he has great size for the position with a thick upper half. He's a natural baller, knows how to throw his weight around in the run game, has good awareness to spot and adapt to stunts. His finisher, he will on defenders if they slip in him. His length looks good, and he uses it effectively. He's difficult to knock off his platform, even when his feet aren't right. His sheer mass will make him a strong person to go through as a pass rusher. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's a waist bender who compromises his balance and leans too far trying to maintain control. Has skeptical to a quality push-pull move. He will need to improve his technical discipline as a pro. He's a very stiff and clunky athlete overall. His poor hand speed will lead to late adjustments with his upper half. He can't recover once he makes a mental mistake with his positioning. He's not a scheme versatile type of athlete or blocker. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Solomon Kinley of the Miami Dolphins, so has a lot of upside, a lot of things you like for sure, but he has a lot of things he's going to have to clean up for sure. Maybe could be used as a depth piece, but, you know, someone that I think could keep an eye on if you want depth for like second or third string. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Virginia Tech, standing 6'3", weighing 325 pounds. We got with Cytus Smith. So for Cytus' strengths, he's a strong, stoutly built individual. He drives his lower half in the run game and will work his way to finishing defenders. He plays with great balance, knee bend, and leverage. His feet and handwork work in conjunction, and he don't get out of sync very often. His punch time is excellent. He won't fire off too early. He maintains his leverage well through contact. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's agile and his body control in space isn't ideal for connecting with and controlling linebackers in the run game. His hand placement isn't consistent. He will swing them wide around the frame. He doesn't have the raw power needed to simply maul opponents. He's not quick enough to recover if he makes a mistake. He struggles to adjust urgently with hand fighting, and his position as a run blocker has too many lapses. And his balance tends to fail more later in the game, so he's got to learn to be conditioned better so that doesn't happen. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to free agent guard Nico Saragosa. So yeah, has a lot of upside, a lot of things to like for sure, but a lot of things he's got to clean up. Definitely someone to keep an eye on for depth for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'3", weighing 332 pounds. We got Jamari Sawyer. So for Jamari's strengths, he has plenty of experience playing tackle. Could be used there in emergency, so he has a lot of versatility, so can play anywhere on the line. He possesses ideal length. A powerful striker can punch holes through the chest of defenders. His hand usage and pass protection has flashes. He has some road grader to his game. He'll create push to drive back defenders in short yardage situations, so he could be definitely someone to use for like a third and short, fourth and short situation. Since we all know Dan Campbell likes to go for it a lot on fourth down. I mean, it's hard to knock back and move into the pocket. His brick wall once he settles his feet and gets situated. In terms of his weaknesses, though, has a thin lower half, which is out of the norm for interior linemen. He gets out over his feet, and it causes some issues with his balance. Has average open field athlete, won't be able to consistently win against linebackers. He's stiff in the hips, unable to flip his angles on short notice. He's clunky with his movements, doesn't have the ideal body control. And he's too inconsistent from snap to snap, so he's got to learn to be a lot more consistent. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired guard Isaac Isida. Yeah. Hopefully I said that last name right. But yeah, anyway, still a lot of things you like for sure. Very strong and very powerful. Couple things he's got to clean up, and he's got to learn to be more consistent. But yeah, definitely someone worth taking a gamble on for like depth for sure. Someone for depth for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Memphis, standing 6'2", weighing 305 pounds. We got Dillon for him. So for Dillon, he's your prototype initial quickness guard, so he's very quick right off the snap. In terms of strength, he's a natural combo blocker, can transition smoothly to the second level. Leg drive's consistent, will allow him to work through defenders who can't reset. His hands and feet work well in sync, and he plays with a solid base. He moves efficiently as a puller. He plays to the whistle, has some nice finishes on tape. His pass is off stunts in a timely manner. He's flexible in his lower half, will use his length well for an interior lineman. His initial hand placement is very accurate. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his hand quickness is no better than average, though, however, despite it being accurate, he doesn't keep them loaded all the time. His play strength isn't NFL starter caliber yet, but it could be in the future. But he tends to narrow his base once he gets too engaged on blocks. He lacks the upper body power to torque defenders off angles in the run game. And his eyes are a bit too late to shift in pass protection, so he's got to learn to get better with that. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Dayon Calhoun of the Washington Commanders, but Still, a lot of things to like for sure. Very quick and has very accurate hands. A lot of things to like for sure. A couple of things he's going to have to clean up. But yeah, maybe someone that could be a starter in a couple of years. But for now, would be definitely depth as a second and third stringer. But could potentially go to guard if you put him around the right coaching staff and the right people that can get the most out of him. And the final guard we're going to go over in this video before we move on to the centers, we have hailing out of LSU, standing 6'3", weighing 345 pounds. We got Heintz. So for Chasen's strengths, has a prototype body for a guard with a wide frame. He punishes smaller defensive linemen if they lose footing or take a poor angle. Has a nasty streak, can stick his foot in the ground on seal blocks and lock out opponents. He's controlling his hands when he works combo blocks and changes assignments. His awareness for surroundings seems very adequate. He's not the type, though, that will make mental mistakes. In terms of weaknesses, though, too easily loses balance when he works laterally. Too often he's overwhelmed trying to settle and adjust against power. He's a clunky lateral mover, will struggle adjusting the blitzers and cover ground. He doesn't have the type of range and adjustability that teams want in a zone blocker. So he starts to lean a bit later in reps, and it causes balance lapses, so he's going to have to learn to be better conditioned, though, so that doesn't happen. And it's too often his feet get turned into cinder blocks once he makes contact and pass blocking. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Damian Lewis of the Seattle Seahawks, so has a lot of upside, a lot of things to like for sure, a lot of things for sure, but a couple things, though, he's very limited to, and a lot of things he's going to have to clean up and get better conditioning, but yeah. Definitely somebody to keep an eye on for depth for sure. So now moving on to centers. The first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Washington, standing 6'5", weighing 300 pounds. We got Luke Dwudenberg. So for Luke's strengths, he offers excellent size for a center with above average height and arm length for the position. Athleticism that allowed him to initially begin his college career at left tackle, which flashes on tape very well. And he shows good initial quickness and lateral agility for down blocks on defensive tackles and when sneaking ahead to the second level. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he can get pushed into the backfield when he loses the leverage battle and he comes off the snap way too high, so he's got to learn to stay low. And too often he'll get flat-footed once he's engaged with defenders. He fails to mirror their movements and keeps himself squarely between them and the ball carrier, which leads to slip blocks. He's generally an accurate snapper, but he had some misfires in 2021. Including a wild 1 yard over the heads of his QB against UCLA. So he'll have to learn how to snap the ball better and not let it go over the head too much. If you want to watch some tape there. But yeah, anyway, in terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Matt Hennessy at the Atlanta Falcons. So yeah, has a lot of upside and some versatility for sure. Could play tackle as well. A couple things he's got to clean up, including how to snap the ball, but if he can't clean up the snapping with the ball to the QB, he could be going to tackle. But yeah, maybe someone to keep an eye on for depth for sure. And the final center, the final offensive lineman, the final player we're going to go over in this video, we have hailing out of Michigan State, standing 6'3", weighing 315 pounds. We got Matt Allen. And if anyone's wondering, he is the younger brother to Los Angeles Rams center Brian Allen. So yeah, he has some very good shoes to fill. But in terms of strength, though, he possesses a short, stubby frame and powerful build, conducive to winning the leverage battle along the line of scrimmage. He generates consistent movement as a drive blocker, surges forward with impressive core and lower body strength and reliant hand placement. He's a stout anchor in pass protection against bull rushers, and he keeps his butt down, his feet sprawled, and his hands locked in tight. He's also an accomplished wrestler at the high school level. He was a state champion at the 285-pound level as a senior. And in that same weight class, he was a runner-up in his junior year of high school. And in those 2 years, he had a combined record of 86-4. Holy shit. He was something of a wrestler himself, too. Damn. That's damn impressive. But anyway, in terms of his weaknesses, though, he's a blue-collar tough guy that can win in a phone booth, but he struggles the more he is asked to move. His heavy feet, which can be exposed when he's asked to block on the move. He struggles to redirect to moving targets at the second level. His short arms likely make him a center-only prospect. He will require thorough medical evaluation as he missed at least 3 games each year from 2008 to 2020, which was 13 games total. So yeah, Dow's injury concerns could lead to a bit of a red flag, so can he stay healthy? In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to TJ Johnson of the Cincinnati Bengals. So yeah, has a lot of upside for sure. Definitely strong. Definitely has a good center of gravity, especially with that impressive background as a high school wrestler. You know, a couple things he's going to have to clean up, though, and he's going to have to learn to stay a little healthier. But yeah, definitely could be used as a depth piece for sure, but for 100%, though, he's going to have some big shoes to try and fill in the NFL, especially since his brother Brian is coming off a Super Bowl win with the Rams last season. So yeah, can he live up to the same level his brother Brian was, or will he be living in Brian Allen's shadow? Time will tell. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here for this NFL draft preview for the Lions. Yeah, definitely a lot of offensive lineman prospects, too, that look very intriguing and to keep an eye on for sure. So yeah, there's some interesting names to keep an eye on for sure for depth for the offensive line, since I think depth's going to be a big part for the Lions this year. Now, like I said last year, I know offensive line isn't the sexiest pick in the world, but they are essential to a team's success, since the game is truly won and lost in the trenches. So yeah, offensive linemen are still very essential, and it doesn't hurt to add another extra one or two for sure. So yeah, definitely some interesting names to keep an eye on and a look at for sure. But yeah, and of course, this also wraps up all the offensive draft previews for this year's draft. So yeah, I will not be doing any more offensive draft previews for this draft season. So yeah, I have 3 more draft previews I'm going to be doing for this year, and those last 3 will all be focused on the defense, which will be defensive line, linebacking core, and then the secondary, which is defensive backs and safeties, and then that's it. Like, only a few more weeks until the draft. Less than 2 weeks. So, yeah. Still, anyway. If anyone's wondering, yes, I am doing draft reactions for the first round. And the second round, too. Day 3 is debatable. But, yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I gotta say, and I'll see you on whatever I make next. Peace.